Hello, everybody out there. This is Robert Price coming live. I am going to connect all of these wonderful things that we have going on. Let everybody make it. Letting folks come in here. All right. All right. So as folks hop in, Instagram, I have folks on YouTube. I have some folks hopping in. It's a good place. Good to see you all there. Um, so I'm going to get ready to get started here. Um, Trying to just, I love technology. I am learning on the fly all the time. Um, and that's what this is all about. So as I hop in here, hop around, you may see me moving and grooving. Uh, but I am getting it all connected. Uh, Perfect. I think I got everything in everywhere. So again, this is Robert Price coming to you today live, just for about 20 or so minutes of our time. Really good opportunity just to share with those who are listening and those that are in the Facebook group as well, specifically an opportunity for you as you are in there learning and listening about what it is that I'm going to be sharing today. I already got some texts and emails about what I had shared on Instagram, but also in our post here in the group, where I wrote down or shared that winners and losers have the same goals. And so sometimes folks they see things, they're like, man, how is that even possible? But the reality of this is once we actually start to think about it and start to understand it, what this sounds like or what it looks like, is that this is 1,000% true. What we know is that folks who are thinking about doing something phenomenal, that they too have goals that they have set for themselves. And so since they've had these goals that they've set for themselves, what we notice is that there's this understanding that um, I want to achieve this thing that is out here for me to achieve. And when we talk about goal setting, one of the things that we talk a lot about, especially as a mental performance coach, is the goal itself. Is it something that we think might be attainable? Is it something that is a little bit of out of our reach? Is it something that we have to do some steps to make it happen? And what I had shared is that when we talk about what the difference is between the winner, quote unquote, and the loser, that they have the same goals, is they do. It's what separates them, although they have the same goal. What's separating them oftentimes might be the process or the strategy that comes along with the goals that are set. And so there's a lot of information out there around goal setting specifically. I'm going to share a little bit of my screen with this, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it. But the reason or the why behind we actually set goals is because we're looking from a golfer standpoint to generate some consistent play. We also know that if we do set goals, that actually will increase our enjoyment while playing. Now that's a tough one for many of my junior golfers, because it's and professionals as well. It's like, well, how do I increase enjoyment? Well, enjoyment, or the feelings of joy, not happiness per se, but joy in and of itself, counted all joy. So what is it that we're trying to enjoy? Well, if we're looking at a process that we have created, or the strategies that we've created, and that's what we get to an opportunity to actually judge or look at, or have some feedback with, an interaction with, that can actually be a very enjoying process. Because if we start off the right way by setting the right types of goals, then we can create the right strategies and the right process, as I do with my athletes in the mental playbook, so that way we can begin to accomplish the things that we've set out for ourselves to accomplish, but only if we set the right strategy and process in place right away, like in the beginning. If we do that, then what we'll start to notice is that there will be an opportunity for us to really begin to grow accordingly, and that way we're also not in a situation that might seem unsurmountable. And what I really am excited for is when I'm working with folks, is really to get them to understand, like, there is this process, and I'll share this with you now, is like, well, what's the point of us even setting these goals? Well, the point of us setting these goals is just like your GPS. You plug in the destination, but it deliberately energizes you. It directs your behavior. It sustains that behavior over time to ensure progress. So again, this is like a little teaching, a little ed, because what it says here is that this is, I put in the destination. Now from there, it should be energizing, it should be directing, and it should be sustaining behavior that will ensure our progress. And so I just share that the progress is so important, that if we understand what that progress looks like, if we understand what that strategy is that we're going to need to be using, then we can actually begin this process of achieving and attaining the things that we're looking to achieve and obtain. So the beautiful thing is this: we have some, I'll share. We always have some big goals, right? So this is the big map of when we're talking about what does goal setting do, and the differences maybe between the winner and the loser. But again, these people, whomever we are, because we're both of these, and it's all about definition often, is that what's the difference between a winner, and what's the definition between a loser? And we've talked a little bit about that in my post. I talked a little bit about that, but again, they have the same goal, right? So if we think about this, this is literally what goal setting in and of itself does. It tells us what kind of behavior we should have, what kind of direction. Oftentimes, it will help us adjust our behavior. And I'm going to go a little bit more into that detail. And then there's some level of sustenance with our behavior, right? So again, we plug in the destination that tells us where we want to go. Once we figure out where we want to go, it starts telling us the directions and how we get there. Many of the things that I work with is working with golfers that want to go play collegiate golf. I think that's an amazing goal. It's the where to. But we start missing on some of these next spaces. Like, so how do we direct our behavior to create a set of circumstances that would allow us to get to our destination? And so if we do that, then we start looking at that. We start understanding that we have to do steps A, B, C, and D. If we're doing those steps, then we get to look at how are we doing within those steps. That's the adjusting of our behavior that might need to happen. That's that recalculating, right? We go this way, or we go that way, or there's a detour sometimes, or we may get injured, or we may not have the results that we're looking for. And then we need to start recalculating, taking another look at how do we get again back toward where we want to go. And then what we need to do is to recognize that we will get there, and that will allow us to sustain the behaviors that are necessary for us to quote unquote achieve the goal that we have set for ourselves. So in this little circle, right, there are many steps within here. But first we need to know where we're going. Then once we know where we're going, then we can start charting out the specifics, the goals, the things that will direct us or direct our behavior, so that way we know how to get there. Once we do that, we begin the journey toward it. And there will be roadblocks or traffic or construction. There's things that are going to come up in our direction toward the goal that we're looking to achieve. We then adjust our behaviors accordingly. Once we do that, then we will be able to continue to move toward the goal. Our timing may be off a bit, but then we're able to sustain that behavior over time. And here are some spaces where I see folks that I'm working with consistently, is that there's a struggle with this part right here, adjusting our behavior when there is some bumps along the way, meaning there are some situations that come up that we may or may not have planned for. But when those situations come up, we have to be able to maneuver, to recalculate, to readjust our behavior, because we might have to take another look at, is the goal, the original destination, going to allow us to get to the place that we're really trying to get to? And so that takes a little bit of humility. That takes a little bit of truth. And this is one of the beautiful things that when I sit with someone, I often talk about, like, so what are the facts in this situation? What are the truths that happen? And so what we get an opportunity to do, because if we're really trying to work between the two ears here, that mental space, our mind, and the things that we're thinking, how do we change those things, the things that we have our control over? Well, we need to be very honest with ourselves and very truthful about the facts that we are seeing. And so there's always a round of golf in which you can always look back. And even within a hole specifically, where you may hit a particular tee shot, and it may land in a certain place, and then you don't get up and down. And you're mad maybe because you didn't get up and down. But the reality of it is, it goes all the way back to the execution of the tee shot. And maybe you put the ball in a place or a position on the fairway or in the rough or in a fairway bunker that did not allow you to get to where you wanted to get to in the most efficient manner. And so there's always work to be done in this area. I've had opportunities to work with some college kids who have gone through their conference championships, and I'm specifically recalling a conversation with a young man who played in horrible weather. The wind was about 30, 35 miles an hour. It's raining, super cold, actually. And so the game plan, the original game plan going into these rounds, was a little bit different than what actually played out during the event. But what we also knew is that we still had a goal, and we still needed to try to get to that goal. We just needed to figure out adjusting our behavior, or adjusting the thought process that we had, how we're going to get there based upon the weather, which is something that we don't have any control over. And so now we begin to understand, well, let's look at what I do have control over. Is this the type of weather that I need certain kind of gloves, or certain type of rain gear, or towels, or whatever it is that we're going to do? We're going to carry, or we're going to push, or there's lots of information now that we can input into these types of goals that we're setting for ourselves so that you can actually reach the outcome that you're looking to reach. So again, just a quick recap, but if you really understand this process of winners and losers, and that they have the same goals, it's actually asking yourself, so since that is true, how do I stay on the side of the winning side? How do I begin executing a process, sustaining a program or strategy that is going to allow me to follow through with the goal that I have originally set? And I really, love working with people individually and independently around how do you go about doing that. And if you do that well, then ultimately you will be getting closer to the successes that you are looking for. So here's some language that I share with my clients, and I get an opportunity to share it here with you all. Is this? We talk about winning and losing, and the thing that we don't have control over, oftentimes what I share is winning. But what we do have control over is the process that will put us in a position to win. The process that will put us in a position to win. That's what we actually have control over. And if we start to understand that, then now we really are able to look specifically at the goals that we're setting for ourselves. Oftentimes the goals that someone will say to me is they want to shoot a certain number or they want to win this event. And a shout out to my fellas out there at the MAC Champ in Houston. There's that field is stacked with D1 commits and guys going to college. I mean, like, it's going to be an amazing field. And so if your goal is to win, then we're kind of setting ourselves up for something that we don't have any control over. But what we do have control over is like, what can I do to put myself in position to actually do that, to win? So that is really the work that happens. And then that is the types of directive behavior that we begin to make. So getting ourselves in position is top 5, top 7 after day 1 or day 2. And now you're right there. You're able to strike the lead if you need to, or if you put yourself in that position based upon the types of goals that we've set, whether it's greens and regulations, whether it's putts per round, whether it's fairways hit, whether it's birdies made versus bogeys or double bogeys. What is our par 5 average scoring or our par 3 average scoring? These are the types of things that we use to actually direct our behavior and then allow us, if necessary, to adjust as we go forward in the rounds that we're playing in. And so there's a lot to be said about how do we do that. And obviously, if I'm working with you within the mental playbook, we go into all of those details. We actually create a game plan for you to kind of help you start to understand when it comes to writing and making goals that are going to sustain you appropriately without causing the frustration sometimes that can easily happen. In that work, we're really looking at, how do I develop the attitude that helps you achieve your goals? And that's super important. That's like step 1A in this process. We want to know, what is it that we're thinking? What is it that we're feeling? What is it that we're believing that may even sometimes prevent us from achieving the objective, the goal that we set for ourselves? And so once we figure those things out, again, the attitude is something we have control over. That allows us to start getting us in the right headspace. And then from there, we start figuring out, like, how do we get our attitude to empower us, right? To get the most out of what it is that we're looking to accomplish. And so again, we begin this process and we begin understanding, like, this is going to take some energy, take some time, take some effort. But at the end of the day, you out there have an opportunity to make this happen. And I'm just excited for those that are out there listening and thinking about, how do I go about putting this into action, and what is it that I need to do as a parent and as a junior golfer that's going to allow me to begin setting the appropriate goals, the right types of goals with a proven process and strategy that's going to be able to get me in a position to be a winner. So that way I am not looking at the other side of these things more often. And so I think that is the crucial aspect, and one of the takeaways for this particular live tonight is I want to get myself in a position to win. And if I do that, I'm going to have the same goals as winners and losers. However, I want to make sure that my goals are something that I can direct. Sometimes I will have to adjust, and sometimes I will then be able to sustain that over time. So that way I'm, again, putting myself in the best position possible to obtain or to achieve the goal that I had originally set out to achieve. And so with that being said, if you guys have questions out there on Instagram or whatever, YouTube, please throw them my way, or in the Facebook group specifically. I love to answer those questions for you, for those parents out there specifically that you may have some questions with regards to how do you go about getting started in this process. So I'm excited about where we are. And again, in that post, I really talked a little bit about, our society that we live in. It tends, I don't think that's a stretch, but it tends to shine the spotlight only on those who are victorious. And they attribute their success really to those lofty aspirations. But the reality is that those lofty aspirations are held by more than just the people who are the victors. They're held by everyone, specifically in certain fields and certain golf venues. And I mean, everyone wants to win, and everyone wants certain things to happen for themselves. PGA Tour pros don't go out there with a desire to not win. They want to go out there with an opportunity to win. But we have to think about, how do we put ourselves in the best position to do so? And that is the loop, essentially, ultimately, that happens when we begin that beginning stages of goal setting that allows us to really be able to separate ourselves from winning and losing, but putting ourselves in the position to win more often. So again, I appreciate you guys joining me on YouTube, out there on Facebook, also inside my Instagram. I appreciate you guys being out there. Shout out to those that are there. I really appreciate you guys. If you have questions, again, I'll stay on for a little while, and I will answer those questions. All right. Okay. I'm getting ready to close this off. But again, this is, as folks know, you catch me on my website. And then if you want to hop into the Facebook group, that is an opportunity for you to just kind of receive material and information about how do we go about it, working with a coach, mental coach, and getting your kids set up for what it is that they're looking to accomplish. Again, trying to accomplish those certain goals that they have set for themselves. So for everybody that was out there in all the platforms today, appreciate patience in the beginning. We got all that connected. It is uniquely challenging for some of us out here, but I was able to figure it out, so I feel pretty good. And the recording of this actually does go inside of the Facebook group for those that are in there. Give them an opportunity to kind of take a look and watch, and then ask questions within the and there are any comments that you may have. So that is a place for you guys to do so. So I appreciate you guys being in there. And if you need anything, you guys know how to find me.